Tim Pitsiulak's show speaks for itself, and so I really can't say anything other than I don't think it's been a long time since I've seen the gallery, or ever had the gallery look this great, and it's such a privilege to have his work here. I'd like to welcome and introduce Sarah Milroy, who wrote the beautiful text that's in the catalog and helped with the visuals here, and is going to speak, and this guy.
AKA Tim.
AKA Tim.
So I think Pat wanted me to say a few sort of introductory words before I speak with Tim and ask Tim some questions, and then after that we're all going to be able to ask Tim questions. But I wanted to just quickly talk about how I came to know Tim's work and to be interested in Tim's work. I had first really gotten interested in contemporary Inuit art, and I think a lot of people are in the same boat, because of the show that Annie Pudaguk did at the power plant. And subsequent exhibitions of contemporary Inuit art that were happening mostly by Inuit women artists at that time. And the power plant show was 2006. It was a new view of the North that we hadn't seen in the South. It was disturbing. It was very real, very raw, and it really pointed to, you know, the crisis in those communities, and in very pictorially inventive ways, with real emotional urgency and honesty. And self-revelation, and I think all of us have a great deal of respect for that body of work. I remember, however, going to the art fair here in Toronto in 2009 and seeing these incredible large-scale drawings that Tim was doing, and I had not met Tim at that time. Tim Pitsiulak was just this name. I kept coming across images that were so full of energy and joy and a spirit of like play and excitement about life, and they were actually, you know, in many ways kind of felt like the opposite of what I had come to think about the North through the work that I had been seeing for the 5 or 6 or 7 years previously. And I think a lot of us in the South, you know, hear a lot about the difficulty of life in the northern communities, the difficulty of Canada's Aboriginal people everywhere in the country, and there's a way in which, however, I began to be suspicious that maybe the stories that the media was making so much of, and of course, you know, we all need to have more and more awareness of these issues, but that these stories were not the only story about life in the North and where Aboriginal communities in Canada are at. So when I saw Tim's pictures, I became curious to meet this man that was making these incredibly joyful works, and so I went up to Cape Dorset with Pat, which is a fantastic experience. If any of you have done it, Marnie was with me on that trip, you'll know how great it is to travel with Pat up there. And what I came to realize was that there's 2 ways to assert a way forward in terms of contemporary culture and Inuit life. One is to reveal the difficulties that Inuit communities have faced, all of which really actually are a function of their interactions with southern communities. So these are not really their issues, they are our issues as a culture. The other way is to assert the things about those cultures that are so profound and that we as Canadians, you know, need to learn from. And when I went up into Tim's community, I was struck by the respect for the natural world, for the strong, intact bonds between families and between generations, the values for sharing among everyone in the community, regardless of their net worth or what resources they might have. One person's resources is really everyone's resources. The fact that humility is such a highly prized value, not being a big shot. And you know, I really found, I mean, when I wrote the piece finally in Walrus magazine about learning about Tim's work, I wrote about how difficult I could see it was for Tim to even be asked to talk about himself, because it was like, oh, you know, I'm not really that comfortable with talking about myself. Let's talk about something else. And that's so at odds with our values. And so what happened for me, what continues to happen for me when I get to know more and more about Indigenous art in Canada, whether it's on the west coast of Vancouver Island or if it's in Cape Dorset, but particularly perhaps in the Arctic, is the more I become a student of their culture, the more I become an anthropologist about our culture. And I come to see our culture for its strengths, but frankly much more for its weaknesses in comparison to these values that I still see as very much intact in northern communities. So I think that's why I am so drawn to Tim's work. I feel like he's asserting all the strengths of that culture, and it's like a beacon of light for his community to move towards. It's a place of pride, dignity, a deep sense of capability in terms of harvesting the natural world and respecting it, strong assertion of the importance of the family and the community. And I just think that as Canadians, if we all had these values held more dear, we would be the much greater nation for it. So I think first Canadians in every respect is my view. So that being said, I have a few pretty basic questions for Tim, and then I want to ask everyone to participate in asking Tim whatever questions that you want to. But I suppose the first thing is that I noticed is that Tim is, of course, one of the leading artists in the Cape Dorset community. He's also one of, if not the leading hunter in the community. So these are not creatures that he doesn't know in an intimate way. Can you talk to us a little bit about the relationship between working as an artist and working as a hunter, and how those things relate to each other?
Thank you for a wonderful speech. Can I say a few things?
Please.
I can't go on a conversation without thanking a lot of people here. And most touching is my daughter, Kaylee. Can you come in? This is my daughter, Kaylee. You know, most of you know my first show here. And this is Kaylee Galday. And the parents, wonderful parents are Kevin and Karen. And yeah, I can't ask for anything more. So, yeah, if you have questions for her, please. Grown a lot bigger since I was last here, and thank you. Thank you. And another thing is my wife, my wonderful wife, Mary. My wife and we've been married 6 years, and this is actually her first time in Toronto, but she's passed by before and never left the airport. It's great to have her here, and yeah, thank you. And last but not least, Pat Feely, and she's my best friend, and Barry, of course, Barry. And I see a lot of good friends here, and the Inuit friends that came in yesterday, and the long flight that they had to take getting here, and again I can't ask for anything more, and I want to congratulate the Red Sox. I've been here a week already, and just I never thought it's been a week already, and I enjoyed Toronto. So. And, I always have a good laugh every day. That you can't ask for anything more. A good laugh after a hard day. Relax, have a few drinks. Friends. That's all you ask for is friends. And it's again one more thing is the work that was put into effort here in the show. Brad and Renzo, are you here? Brad and Renzo?
I'm ready.
Renzo and Brad? These guys put their backs into putting all this work up, and I thank you guys a lot. Thank you. And what else was it? This is the thing I don't have a speech ready from, because whatever's from here I'll say, and please forgive me if I pause for a bit, because I just try to say what's from here. And all the works here is pretty cool. I worked on them on a piece of plywood on a table. That's it. That's all I saw. But seeing them like this, and thanking Pat and the crew here, thank you.
Thank you.